Welcome back to the channel. This game continues the Commonwealth Championship played in London in 1985. This was the round 5 game between Andrew Martin, an IM from England, and Nigel Short. The game was quite an interesting game and was annotated by Andrew Martin, so most of the notes come from him. But the game started as a Nimzo Indian. And the Huguenot variation, according to Martin, one of the most attacking variations against the Nimzo. Black castles and normal development. Martin suggested that knight to e2 was better than knight to f3 because it allowed the f pawn to be advanced. It looks like white's got quite a bit of space, and Nigel decides to drop his knight back, preparing to blockade the king side when the eventual f4 comes, hitting the weak c pawn, and here comes f4. And sure enough, Nigel decides to block it with f5. And there's probably a better move than knight to a5, hitting the c pawn eventually, as this allows white to build up some momentum on the king side. A clever move this knight to g3 would be, as obviously if you take the knight, then queen to h5 after pawn takes g6 would become quite menacing for black. So Nigel avoided this line and played the solid f5. He's still, I would say white's still, actually no, probably the position is quite equal. More pressure on the f pawn, and black drops his knight back. He looks quite passive, but if he can hold up the kingside attack, then his game should be fine. And after a lot of trades on f5, the position comes a bit clearer. White has double pawns, the c pawns, but it does have the open. It will have the open b file. So there's chances on both sides. I think bishop e3 here, just d6, and white hasn't got much. So rook to b1 was a nice move. Black immediately challenges the open file. And we reach this position where it's still fairly quiet, or it's not quiet, but it's fairly dynamic. The queen comes out to hit the bishop. After a trade of rooks, black simply defends the queen to c8. Bishop drops back, probably eyeing the h4 diagonal at some point. And sure enough, here it comes. There's a better diagonal for the bishop. And here black plays quite a nice move. It kind of forces the trade of the bishops because he's hitting the f pawn and the c pawn. And so he gets the trade of knight for bishop. That's probably the only decent square for the white rook against seizing an open file. Hitting the d pawn, and here he probably saw it, Nigel, but bishop to e7 seems to temporarily win a pawn. Nigel played rook to c8, obviously defending the c pawn, but I think probably better would have been bishop to b5, counter-attacking by attacking the queen. after queen to d1, and something like this, and then queen takes d5, I think the position would have been very equal, and white would have had no trouble. Sorry, black would have no trouble. You play rook to c8, and this does allow white an advantage after bishop takes d6. White gets his bishop onto the best square. Sorry, black gets his bishop onto the best square, eyeing the g2 pawn. Obviously, the bishop can't be taken because of queen e8, mate. So now there's pressure on the g2 pawn, and the bishop now needs to move. This is a clever idea, just making sure there's no mate on e8 now. The king's got a safe square. And here Nigel thought that here Martin thought that he had a winning line. He actually played rook to d1, but he was looking at queen takes a7, but thought it fouled due to rook takes c3, bishop d4. But rook to c7 was probably he thought it was a saving move. And after queen takes c7, queen takes bishop check, then queen to f2. The rook must defend the mate, but if you throw a check in first and then play rook to f1, bishop takes g2 is a draw by perpetual check. So he didn't play this line. He thought he had better, but what he did miss was he played the wrong queen check in the middle. If he'd have played in this position where he played queen to d8 check, if he'd have played queen to c4 check and then king to h8, now it is winning because he can play rook to g1, and bishop takes g2 doesn't work now due to rook takes g2, and queen can't go to f1 check because the queen's now covering it on c4. So black would probably have had to take the pawn, and after queen to c3, I think white would be winning. So definitely a missed opportunity from Martin, and if he'd have seen the right queen check in the middle of the combination he was looking at, he'd have won the game. So probably a let off for Nigel, but a very interesting position. So he played rook to d1 thinking that the queen takes a7 wasn't working, and queen to c6, and now the game kind of peters out a bit. The queens get traded, and after this move the rooks are traded, and the game's simply a draw due to opposite coloured bishops. But definitely a game I think Nigel dodged a bullet, as I say, in the middle of that combination which Martin was looking at. He missed the winning move with the queen check. A very interesting game. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back with some more videos soon. Bye for now.